When this needle touches the church, that's when doomsday will happen. What's up guys, welcome back to Ride the Bean. We are waking up now next to a beautiful lake. We even have our own private little beach here. But it's pretty cold, so we haven't really gone for a swim. But today the plan is to explore a little bit of Stavanger. It's a really interesting city that has a long history. So we thought we would start off the day by doing a little bit of a motorcycle tour around Stavanger and then a little walk around the city before we head towards Borgen, another important and interesting city. Are you awake?
No.
Yeah, it's early in the morning and it's pretty cold today. It's been raining and now it's starting to rain again. But we're just gonna finish our breakfast and see you on the road. Okay, let's go! This has been a really nice campsite. We're woken up this morning by a little family of ducks. That was beautiful. But now we are going to explore a little bit of Stavanger. We're gonna do a little bit of a tour around the area and then go into the city, and I'll tell you a little bit about the history of this place, which is really fascinating. Before we get on the road to go to Borgen. So this area, this region, has a pretty interesting history, and the first settlers here came here right after the melting of the ice, after the last ice age, and they most likely came from a place called Doggerland, which was a landmass between Denmark and England, that when the glaciers melted, this land were flooded and is now below the sea. And so the inhabitants of this area had to find a new place to live. And so they came here and settled. This was like between 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, roughly. And since then, there's been people living in this area. And we found archaeological evidence and of settlements dating all the way back to the Stone Age. This place is called Hafrsfjord, translating to sea fjord. Kind of a dumb name, but this place is one of the most important places in Norwegian history. Around the corner here, there's a monument that symbolizes that famous event that took place here. The monument called Sword in Mountain, or Sword in Rock. There's a tourist bus. This is one of the most popular stops for all the tourists here. A Polish tourist bus. Well, let's stop and have a closer look. So this is the Sword in Rock, and that represents a very famous battle that took place somewhere between 872 and 900 between the chieftains here on the western side of Norway and the victor. You may have heard of him. He was sort of represented a little bit in the Vikings series on, was it HBO? Harald Fairhair. He was the winner of this battle and became Norway's first king, or the king of the first united Norway, kind of. So he united all the tribes and all the kingdoms here on the west side of Norway, which was basically all of Norway at that time.
And so this was the first place that Norway became one kingdom, which is kind of fascinating.
And that was pretty early on.
Yeah, like around year 900.
Yeah.
So it's like
So that's very important.
Yeah, middle Viking age kind of. And it's represented by these 3 Viking swords sticking into the mountain.
And what does it mean to? Well, what are these swords?
Well, they represent this battle.
But they were, I think I've seen they were based on some real Viking swords that were found around Norway.
Yeah. So this area has had settlements for, well, ever since the Stone Age. But there's a lot of like grave piles or like graves found in this area, like with a lot of riches, like chieftain and like king and queen graves. And a lot of Iron Age settlements are found in this area.
And where was the battle? Well,
it was out here in this fjord. So you can imagine out here, hundreds, thousands of Vikings fighting from ships, clashing together. Imagine all the smells and the, and the sounds, and, like everything.
Yeah.
That must have been one hell of an experience.
But do we know if it's true or is it just in a saga?
Well, we know that there was a battle here. And Harold Fairhair's connection to this is mentioned in several of the sagas, in Heimskringla. But of course, all of these sources are written after the fact.
Yeah.
And so we can never be 100% sure. But we know there was a battle here, a big battle, and we know that this was a very important battle. But this battle was sort of, it's known as the battle that united Norway. But in all likelihood, that unification didn't happen with just one battle.
No, it's the first one.
It's the last one.
Ah.
So it was maybe about 100 years of different battles, united like small kingdoms here and there, and like this whole process took maybe like 50 to 100 years.
Yeah.
But this is sort of known as like the battle that did all that.
That's interesting. It's nice they made this monument so we can talk about it.
It's pretty cool.
It's only since 1983 or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure when this was erected.
That was a sword in rock. But now let's head towards the city and see what Stavanger city looks like, because it's quite a beautiful city. And I used to live here when I went to university, and so I thought maybe we can drive past my my old neighborhood and just see what it looks like now. I haven't been back in well, how long is it? 12 years? 12 years, I think. It's kind of interesting to see. I'm kind of curious myself. It's kind of interesting. The Viking series on HBO has a lot of historically accurate ideas behind it, but then they twisted it. So there's like the roots of a lot of the plots and the storylines in the series are actually true. But the whole story is not. The characters are real characters that actually existed, most of them. Like Harold Fairhair, for example, but the way he's portrayed in the series is very different to how he actually was in real life. And King Ragnar in the series was a real king, but he was Danish, not Norwegian in real life. It was very interesting to watch that series as a Norwegian. I think a lot of American screenwriters, they have like this, what's it called? Like this vision of Viking history, and then they mix up Norway, Sweden, Denmark. When I was traveling in America, I was talking to a lot of people. When I said I was from Norway, they didn't really know where Norway was. They had heard the name, but some thought it was the capital of Sweden. Some thought we had polar bears in Norway roaming around. Of course, we have in Svalbard, which is an island off the coast of Norway up north. But it's interesting how this like romanticized vision people have of of Norway and the Vikings, and how they mix up the Scandinavian countries and cultures a lot. Of course, I get it. I guess everyone does that about certain cultures. Like you hear a lot about it, and you don't really know the intricacies of it. So it makes sense, but it's interesting. It's kind of funny, I think. But this is the university I went to. Stavanger University. I went to the hotel school here, but I didn't finish. I failed business economics 3 times, and so I dropped out. But I spent a lot of time here. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun to see it back. That was my main building. And I had some classes in here. It's fun to be back. Oh, people are camping out on the lawn. And this is the library, school library. What the hell is going on there? It's the Palestine encampment. Okay. Free Palestine encampment. And these are student barracks where students live. Cool. I just wanted to swing by and see what it looked like. This brings back memories. If you're into football, then this is the stadium of the local football team. And maybe you can guess what the name of the team is. Viking. So this is the Viking Stadium. Unlike the Vikings American football team, these were named after the actual Vikings, because this is where the Vikings came from. And this football stadium is right next to where I used to live. I used to live right up the hill here. This was my old neighborhood. Huh. It's interesting to see. It hasn't changed much. Except here. This was the house I lived in. Here. But this is completely new. They built a whole new house. I lived down there in the basement, and then there was the owners who lived upstairs. But it looks completely different now. It's always strange to be back at some place that you've spent a lot of time. And this is the hospital in Stavanger, and the hotel, the hospital hotel that I used to work at, St. Svithun. St. Svithun is the guardian angel of the city of Stavanger. And here I used to work 72-hour shifts. I worked night shift in the reception and morning and evening shift in the restaurant. It's kind of weird to be back. It kind of feels like I'm going to work now for some reason, even if it's like 12 years ago. It's always a weird feeling. And this neighborhood is called Våland. I used to deliver pizzas here. I was a pizza delivery boy. I kind of missed that job. This is one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. It was just riding around someone else's car and just having fun, blasting music, driving like a maniac. Here's a whale skeleton. This is the Natural History Museum. And this is the theater of Stavanger. Now we're coming down into the city center. Now we're coming down into Old Town Stavanger. This is where the city originated from. And the name Stavanger comes from the old Norse word. Angr or agr is a term used for like dikes and fjords and inlets, and like a collective term for all of that. And stav means like a pole or post. And so, yeah, this is the inlet. The post inlet, I don't know, yeah, but that's where the name originates from. The cool thing about Stavanger and is that the world's biggest cruise ships dock right in the middle of the center. This is the historic center of the city, and you have the world's biggest cruise ships here. I used to work on the corner there, and every day I would see like these massive cruise ships. This is a small one, but you have like the Queen Victoria and like the, what's it called, the Viking of the Seas or whatever. Like all the famous big cruise ships, they come here and dock. Let's do a little bit of a city walk and maybe have a coffee.
Oh yes.
Here in Borgen, which is the old historical center, they found remains dating back to around the 800 and also before that, but archaeological remains dating back to like 800 or 900. And this is one of the oldest towns in Norway. It is about 900 years old. Here in Borgen, you see all of these old school houses. They all date back to the early 1700s and 1800s, and they are protected today. And it's a UNESCO, it's not a heritage site, but it's a UNESCO protected site. This house, for example, was built in 1700, but the facade was built in 1787. It's kind of interesting when you look at this building from the side. You see how crooked it is.
It's falling.
The whole building looks crooked.
Magmatisk bergart.
Magmatisk bergart.
Ja, faen! Jeg trodde dere var turister. Du hadde... Unnskyld.
Ja.
Vil du være med og si det da?
Ja, sure.
Unnskyld.
Ja.
Magmatisk bergart. Hva har dere gjort nå?
Det er geografi.
Geografi?
Ja, så skal vi må lage en kort video der vi forklarer byggesteinene i Valberget. Og hva de lager, altså naturen.
These houses, these white houses that we see on the other side here, behind the cruise ship, that's old Stavanger. That's where the working class used to live back in the day. In the 1800s, the number of inhabitants here were about 3,000 to 4,000, and it was pretty stable for several centuries. And the biggest industries and what the people who lived in these houses were doing was herring fishing, and tin cans. Like they were producing hermetic cans.
Oh yeah.
And so you have like museums for tin cans
That
and
must be
stuff, and
interesting
herring museum on the other
to see
side.
the old designs on them.
Yeah. And this is one of the oldest hotels in the city, Hotel Victoria.
Salon du Nord.
Salon du Nord.
Salon du Nord.
French always sounds so feminine. Historically, all the houses in Stavanger were painted white. But in 2005, there was a hairdresser in this street that wanted to spruce things up a little bit and asked if it was possible to paint in a different color. And that sparked this kind of revolution of sorts. And a new tourist attraction kind of was born. And that's the color street, Fargegaten. Now, today, this is like the hip town, the young town where there's like a bunch of book cafes, tattoo parlor, restaurants, pubs, and every house is painted in a different flashy color. You're gorgeous, but what's with the hair?
Shall we check?
And today, this is like one of the places that every tourist wants to come because it's kind of a unique place.
Look at the cats.
Yeah. And another thing about Stavanger is they host a graffiti festival each year, where some of the biggest graffiti artists from all around the world come.
the hell? And when that's kind of like a treasure hunt. You can go around the city looking for these tags and graffiti art things, and you can spend days looking for all these things. So some are like tiny, and some are huge murals, painted by some of the most famous artists in the world, and just like hidden around the city. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny when you have a street that's painted with colors, everybody comes and takes pictures and it becomes really famous.
Yeah.
In Montpellier we have one street like this, and it's the most, how do you say?
Visited?
The most, Instagrammed picture place of the city.
Yeah, it's funny.
It looks nice.
It does brighten up the place, and it's a little bit different, so
Yeah,
I think it's really
brightens it
cool. This is a park outside of the oil and gas museum.
Ah, it's oil and gas stuff.
Yeah, so all of these things are things used in gas and oil production.
Oh, yeah.
The Stavanger is the oil capital of Norway.
That's true.
This is where all the big oil companies are based, and the platforms, the oil platforms, the biggest ones, are out on the coast from here.
Yeah.
And so whenever all the oil workers, when they go to work, they come to Stavanger and then they fly out to the platforms that they work on. And so there's a lot of oil money in this city. And again, you see graffiti everywhere. I think it looks cool, and in places like this, graffiti is cool. I think graffiti is really cool. And I wish it was more of it everywhere. But tagging, I'm not that much of a fan of.
Yeah.
Like tagging old, like historic places, I don't like. But when it's like graffiti on like gray concrete buildings, that's beautiful.
Yeah, like this.
Kindergarten bouncing on the.
Look, one of them says sex. Oh, that looks nice. Cool.
Here we have Stavanger Cathedral, which is actually the oldest cathedral in Norway, and it's kept its structure, its original structure, for about 900 years. There's been found remnants of this of a church here since the 800s, early 800s.
Yeah.
But there was like wooden churches and stuff. But this cathedral, in its present form, was built it was commissioned in 1100 and opened in 1125, but finished in 1150, I think.
Yeah.
And recently, was it this year, I think, or was it last year? They found a relic underneath the church when they did an archaeological dig that they thought was gone in the 15th century.
Oh, exciting.
It's a relic relating to Stang City, which is the patron saint of Stavanger. And this church was commissioned by the bishop, I forget his name, but a bishop that came from Winchester in England, which is further evidence of the connection between the British Isles and Norway and the Vikings.
They wanted to make the Vikings Christian.
Yeah, so this was around the time, around the year 1000-ish, was when Norway was sort of beginning to be christened.
Yeah.
Olav Tryggvason was the founder of Trondheim, my city.
Olav Tryggvason, yeah.
He founded Trondheim in 997, and he was sort of traveling around trying to Christian Norway. Yeah. Chopping the heads off the people who didn't want to change gods and stuff. And, it's very interesting.
Constantly cleaning themselves, just like cats.
Are you a swan?
Yeah. It's full of fairies on the ground. That's where they come and just chill. I look like a native Indian. Don't film that. It's not culturally appropriate. When I was a kid, I was always dressing up as one. I think now that would be like inappropriate.
This is also something I find really interesting, this cultural appropriation thing. That's mostly an American phenomenon, as I understand it, because everywhere I go, everywhere I've been, like if you travel to China, if you travel to Fiji, if you travel to South America, people are happy to share their culture, dress you up in their traditional garments, share their culture, their food, their everything, and they don't take offense to it.
Here's a
But the
different
cultural
context.
appropriation thing, it's like other people getting offended on other cultures' behalf.
Can I wear a traditional Norwegian dress?
Yeah, of course you can.
It's cultural appropriation.
It's like people are afraid of just showing respect and interest in different cultures, which I think has the opposite effect again.
Yeah.
It's like that just serves to alienate people. But now I think it is time for us to get back on the bike. We have about a 7-hour ride ahead of us until we are in Bergen.
Yes. A new Norwegian city.
New Norwegian city, and on the way we're gonna take a ferry about an hour across the fjord.
Yes. Is it going to rain? We will see.
We'll see.
Well, that was Stavanger. Hope you guys enjoyed that little tour. Now it is time for us to start heading towards Bergen. And here is Fulcon. This is where I used to go to concerts and stuff when I was a student. I went to see Talib Kweli there. I went to see Fat Joe. The Clips was here. Yeah, a bunch of artists. That was fun. Good times. Now we're going under the sea. Yes. Oh, damn it. It stinks. They're doing roadworks in the tunnel under the sea. This tunnel is 5.8 kilometers and goes under the fjord. Now we are 223 meters under the sea. And now we are out on the other side. Here comes our ferry. Ah, will we make the ferry? Please. We made it. We made the first ferry just in time. Cool. One down, one to go. But in between we have a pretty nice ride. This is the first of many ferries that we're probably going to take on this journey up the west coast. On our way to Bergen, we're passing this pretty interesting place. You see the tower over there. This is the location of the oldest sort of king's, how do you translate that word? Kongsgård? King's domicile, or king's farm in Norway from the Viking ages. Of course, the original place is not here now, but it's I think today it's a monastery, or is it a church? But back in the Viking ages, this is where the king of this region used to live, and they found a lot of remnants of like the longhouses and a lot of jewelry and a lot of stuff from the Viking ages here. I just thought, since we're passing it, why not just have a little look? I've never been here before. This is Avaldsnes Church today. And this is one of the churches along with the one in Stavanger and a few other ones around the country. The cathedral in Trondheim as well. That was where the very first election in Norway was held, when we became a country. When our constitution was signed in 1814. And we had like every single county elected officials to vote for the people who were going to be signing the Declaration of Independence, kind of.
So, this morning we visited the 3 swords, the sword in stone, sword in rock, and talked about the battle that united Norway. And the victor of that battle, King Harald Fairhair. And this was his estate, royal estate. So this was the first royal estate in Norway by the first king of Norway.
Oh.
It's pretty interesting.
He was the first king of Norway.
He was the first king of the whole of Norway.
That's
Yeah, after the unification.
Ah.
According to the sagas, at least. But before that, way before that, in the 3rd century, in this same location, was also a king's seat, or it was like a prince seat, and it is believed that this prince had been a soldier in the Roman army, and he had come here and ruled this western part of Norway during that time in the 3rd century. And down here there are still remnants of an old grave that it's actually the richest king's grave found in Europe.
Ah.
Or is it Northern Europe maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Where they found like gold rings and like titanium jewelry, or
And
like
beautiful weapons.
and all kinds of things. So like this was the seat of the Norwegian first king of united Norway, but hundreds of years before that it was also a king's seat of the local prince ruling this area. And this prince who lived there was considered to be the first ruler to carry the name king. Well, prince king. King in Scandinavian comes from the Old Norse kongur, which means person of like high-ranking blood, kind of like high-status blood, or I don't know how do you say that.
Yeah.
Like high-born, kind of. And that's where the name kongur or konge in Norwegian, king, comes from. It's kind of interesting.
So that's where English took it.
Yeah, so this king is another term that is an English word that stems from Old Norse. And a funny thing, if you see that stone that's leaning up towards the wall. Well, actually, even after that, after King Harald Fairhair was here, Olav Tryggvason built a church here. Olav Tryggvason was the king who founded Trondheim. King Olav Tryggvason, he founded my city, Trondheim, but he also was here and built a church. And since that time, this stone has been leaning towards the tower. It is called St. Mary's sewing needle. And as you can see, it's almost touching. It's like 9-10 centimeters from the wall now. And the legend says that when this needle touches the church, the world will go under. That's when doomsday will happen.
So we are 5 centimeters away from it.
9 centimeters, I think it is now.
Nice.
And so throughout the centuries, the priests have climbed up and like chipped off
Seriously?
Obviously, that's
bits and
cheating.
pieces of this rock to avoid doomsday.
Okay, thanks to them, they saved us. So.
That's funny, huh?
Yeah.
But it's just, I find it really interesting that this location has had so much history going on for 2,000 years, actually, almost. So 1,700 years. That's it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Just in time! We made it! That was in the nick of time. Cool! Last ferry ride of the day. So welcome to Borgen. We made it! And lucky for us, we were thinking of camping today, but lucky for us, I called my cousin who lives there, and he offered us his guest room tonight. So we can have a shower, maybe wash some clothes, and sleep comfortably inside. That's luxury. And now I think we're gonna stay here tomorrow and get some more work done, explore the city a little bit. And then we start our adventure up the mountains. But I think this is it for today. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you did, give me a thumbs up, click subscribe and ring the bell if you want to see our journey through the mountains and the fjords of Norway. Well, we've seen a little bit of it so far, but the most spectacular part is to come. So you don't want to miss that. I guess we'll see you in the next episode then. Peace! Now I just gotta find out where he lives. I'm not sure exactly where it is. Never been here before.